You're saying that you want to stay in this country?
I have to.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Miles Wickshead, and I'm the chair of One World Media. Just a couple of things about housekeeping first. Mobiles, please, off. You know the form. And the second thing is that we're not expecting any fire drills at this time of evening. So should there be alarm bells going off, there are exits here at the front and exits at the back. So this is an extremely special occasion for us. It's our 25th anniversary. And it's great that this evening in the audience we have a number of former chairs and directors who've been able to join us on this special occasion, including Chris Rowley. Chris, where are you? Chris is over there, who co-founded the Trust with Johnny Wilkinson back in 1986. And their goal was to increase the range of television and radio programs about the developing world. The first chair was the late Michael Caine, founder of the Booker Prize, and it's great to have Emma Nicholson with us here this evening. Emma, where are you? Emma, hi, lovely to see you. Johnny can't be here with us tonight, I'm afraid, but I know that he's watching us somewhere out there because this is the first time that we've been able to stream this live from here. So there are hundreds, perhaps thousands, I don't know, lots of people out there watching us as well. So hi, everybody out there. So one of the Trust's first activities was to set up an awards ceremony to encourage broader media coverage of the developing world. The organisation has run these awards every year since, work back, 25th anniversary, since 1988. Much of this work was overseen by Catherine Freeman, who's somewhere here tonight in the audience. Catherine's right down there, who was the second director of the Trust. She was then followed by a husband and wife team, Peter Armstrong and Anuradha Vitachi, who understood the potential of the internet before many journalists even knew what a website was. They created One World Online and built the earliest websites for DFID, Amnesty, Christian Aid, and many more. One World Online is now an independent organisation, but we still work closely together, and they're here broadcasting tonight's proceedings live online. 10 years into its existence, the Trust launched an international fellowship programme, bringing senior broadcasters from developing countries to the UK. The fellowships offered professional development to over 60 leading media figures from more than 25 countries, covering Asia, Africa, and South America. We continue to seek avenues to provide professional training. Other team members we're pleased to have with us tonight are ex-directors Richie Cogan and Ninka Brett, both of whom worked with my predecessor as chair, Lord Tony Young. Between them, they established closer relationships with European partners and also set up the Trust's student bursaries to fund students, to fund film and journalism students to cover developing world issues. This scheme eventually grew into a large-scale student program. Here's a little video to tell you a little bit more about that.
One World Media is working with universities across the UK to teach the next generation of journalists and filmmakers how and why to cover stories from the developing world. They run workshops, masterclasses and larger events so that highly regarded journalists can share their experience of covering international stories.
As a direct result of the One World Media workshops, our students have been inspired to go to Malawi, to go to Zambia, to go to Egypt, to go to the West Bank, to dig around to find some really important international stories to tell.
It's a big project, and between 2009 and 12, it engaged 2,500 journalism and media students. One World Media also runs a production fund, which invites students to pitch an idea for a developing world story.
The film I made with the One World Media funding that I received was called Fly Little Birds.
Just tell me about your boyfriend. Do you have a boyfriend?
Yes.
You have one. His name is? Anthony. Do you love him?
Yes!
Oh, great. That is good.
The film only happened because of the funding I received. And making the film has been brilliant on so many levels. I think it really reaffirmed the ethics and morals that I'd learned on the workshop, which is that we all have a really shared humanity, and that's what we as filmmakers need to be concentrating on, is how we're similar, not just how we're different.
To find out more on One World Media's impact on tomorrow's journalists and media professionals, please visit the website.
So the present team in One World Media are working very hard to develop the student programme to reach media students in the developing world too, with the ambition of strengthening the media sectors of new and emerging democracies so that good governance may be supported by strong, independent, plural media. So we at One World Media have strong ambitions. We want to build on our professional training programmes, our student programme and the awards, and look for additional ways to deliver our key objective, promoting media that contributes to global dialogue and understanding, human rights and development. We're keen to work collaboratively with partners who share our interests and our passion. We're looking at a range of options for the future, including the possibility of developing a large-scale festival, bringing together media talent from all over the world to encourage a global conversation about media's role in democracy. We're enormously grateful to our trustee, Mick Sharkey, down there, for the energy and enthusiasm he has put into developing this idea, and to the Bertha Foundation for supporting the development of the concept. We will want, over the coming weeks and months, to have a number of conversations with you in this room, and with others, as we take these ideas forward. For those of you who might want to get a little more deeply involved, we're about to begin the process of looking for 3 or 4 new trustees to put on our board, to take up posts towards the end of this year. So watch this space, or at least watch our website, to look for further information about that. So it remains for me just to thank our current board and their predecessors, many of whom are here with us on this special 25th anniversary night, to thank our small but perfectly formed One World Media staff team, Clotilde, Derek, Leanne and Julia, and their predecessors, to thank those of you out there who have supported us financially, some of you through sponsoring these awards. And last but not least, to thank our patrons, who are generous to a fault with their time and their backing. Chris Rowley, who I've already mentioned, without whom One World Media would not exist. Sue Hollick, who recently brought together a group of potential partners and has helped us to develop some really significant links. And the man with the best polished bicycle clips in town, the snazziest ties, the only one who can compete with me, to whom I'm delighted now to hand over responsibility for taking us through the rest of this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Jon Snow.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the One World Media Awards. And it's a pretty special year this year. As you heard Miles say, it's the 25th anniversary, but this is also, I believe, one of the moments when we can herald the golden age of journalism. We are on the cusp of it, and these awards actually identify it, and I shall try to explain why. The truth is that there are some of us in here old enough to remember what news gathering was like 25 years ago. I remember being sent to Uganda on film to deal with bits and pieces, the aftermath of Amin and various other things. And you would shoot the pictures and try to record in a diary roughly what the cameraman was doing, so that when you came to the often candlelit moment at the end of the day when you were trying to work out how you were going to piece your words to the pictures, you had to try and, by talking to the cameraman, who was often pissed by then, you had to try and work your way through the day and see how you could incorporate the pictures into the script you wanted to write. You would then remotely record your script, which would be on one piece of tape, and then the film itself would be in the can, of course. And then the next morning you'd have to get up at 5 a.m. to try and get the British Airways flight. Not yourself, of course, because you were going to carry on with the story. But you had to find somebody who was going to carry this junk, a bag full of cans. Well, of course, it was thankfully before terrorism, anti-terrorism, AT, I guess, rather than AD. But AT it was, and therefore passengers were not that reluctant to carry stuff. The problem was they didn't know you, because none of us were famous, and they had to take it on trust. But somehow $100 sometimes made a bit of a difference, or that's what we put down in the expenses at any rate. And then, of course, there was always the crew who might take it, but they were awfully snotty about it. And then, of course, the worst thing of all would be to have to send it cargo, which meant it would spend another day in Heathrow when it got to London. Now, all this reveals to you that 3 or 4 days after you'd shot the pictures, some character would get the thing bathed in the chemical laboratory and then eventually start stitching your words to the pictures. There'd be a tremendous rush, as if it had been shot that day, and they would get it on the evening bulletin that night. Something that was 4 days old, but news. Well, now it's instant, and instant from anywhere in the world. And the biggest change of all, of course, is that we're no longer alone. We were the only people with a camera out in the killing fields of Uganda. These days, we're accompanied by the victims, who are armed themselves with cameras. Very often, people who can barely feed themselves still have a mobile phone. The work that I worked on over the last couple of years in Sri Lanka represents, I think, a turning point in the understanding of conflict and how the world finds out what brutal dictatorships do. The fact is that we are now in an age in which the victim records what is happening to them. This is without precedent, and of course it is particularly clear and vivid in Syria, in Somalia. The people glorify it by saying it's the citizen journalist. It's not, it's the desperate citizen who doesn't need to be a journalist at all, but merely takes shots in the hope that somebody somewhere one day will find out what happened to them. And that story is still unfolding in Sri Lanka, and it unfolds every day in Syria and indeed in Somalia with the latest appalling atrocity there. And this means, and this is why this is such an important moment in these awards, somebody somewhere has to mediate. Somebody somewhere has to assess what's true and what's false, what's cooked and what's not. On Channel 4 News, we had a very interesting report about a year ago when we sent a cameraman into the rebel areas and found a guy doing a piece to camera, a citizen journalist, I suppose we could call him, and there was billowing smoke coming from behind him. And the thing had a great sort of sense of drama to it, except that when we looked down into the sort of lower floors of the building that he was on, there was a rubber tire burning deliberately to give off great sort of black smoke. So the guy looked as if he was on the front line, billowing smoke everywhere. But of course, in fact, he was nowhere near the front line. Although the front line was all about him, the fact was nothing had hit him at that moment, nothing had hit the building at that moment, and it just looked a lot better on camera to have a smoking tire. So you need to know what you're actually looking at. And then, of course, much more seriously, there are people who really do record what has happened, and then you have to be assured that the material hasn't been in any way doctored and the rest of it. So we need mediation. We need journalists. We actually need journalists as never before, because there is more information, more misinformation, more disinformation than there's ever been, and as a consequence, the need for mediation, for rapportage, for reporting has never been greater, and the need for people to understand the methodology of journalism. I mean, I was never trained for anything, which is why I'm still learning on the job. Actually, learning on the job is by far the best way to learn, but it can be embarrassing. Well, we've all been embarrassed, there's no doubt about that. But at any rate, tonight, therefore. Not only are we celebrating the people who've gone out to these places, which, after all, this is what these awards were all about, was to get people, particularly into the developing world, to report, and in turn, as time has gone by, to encourage people living there to participate in training and other opportunities to bring to our screens material which previously was simply never covered. And in fact, much, much more is being covered in a strange kind of a way. The percentages may not have changed, but for example, you have CNN running an extraordinarily creative strand on stories that emerge from the developing world, not always necessarily fueled by conflict, but often fueled by conflict. There's a problem. You know, you have Mali. Nobody knew anything about Mali. Then you discover the Tuaregs. Then you discover that there's really been terrible tension between the Tuaregs and the rest of the indigenous population for many, many years. Suddenly we begin to learn a little bit more about the post-colonial age in which people are still living and evolving into some kind of a society which works out where it's going to go. Then you have outside interference, of which, of course, there's been a very great deal. So it is a very big challenge, but what we're going to see tonight are people who've risen to the challenge, risen spectacularly to the challenge. And in a sense, we're actually celebrating every single one of the nominees tonight, but we're actually going to single out one or two who've really excelled and gone beyond the call of duty. But it is an exciting time to be with One World. It's an exciting time to be able to do what we're doing, which is to encourage new blood, new students and others coming forward. But it is a fantastic time. The only problem is how we monetize it, how anybody ever gets paid. But I'll end with one allegory. I'm quite sure that many people in this room have seen Man on Wire. Man on Wire is a superlative documentary which has nothing whatever to do with development and nothing whatever to do with foreign affairs, but everything to do with being completely bonkers. And the whole idea of Man on Wire is, here is this ludicrous character in France who is very good at tightrope walking. And he decides one day, when the Twin Towers are still up, that he wants to walk the tightrope between them. He has never been to New York, he's never seen the Twin Towers, and he has no idea how he's going to get his vast tightrope up one of the towers, and even less idea how the hell he's going to get it across to the other one before he can walk across it, how he's going to defy the security and the rest of it. But to cut a long story short, he does it. He manages to get up the tower, gets the tightrope across, and walks across. Fool that he is, he doesn't actually take anybody with a movie camera. He does take lots of people with still cameras, and there are lots of people below who look up and film this distant dot going across, but actually there is no moving footage of him actually moving across. There's shots of him like this, shots of him like that, there's shots of him, I'm not going to illustrate this bit, but he's on his head on the wire. So you are perfectly convinced he's gone across. The whole point of the allegory is this: old media in one tower, new media in the other. The tightrope is this tremendous effort we're making to find how we, who have all the content, can enable they who want all the content and we who want all their facilities for transmitting it get together and make money together to finance what we're doing, to finance, for example, the very existence of One World Media. So that's it. That's my overture. It's an exciting evening, exciting challenges, risen to by exciting people. Let's get on and move straight on to the nominees of the first award, which is the Student Award category. It's for the best piece of media about the developing world produced by a UK student. As you saw earlier, One World Media works with over 25 universities nationwide, provides production, funding to support students wishing to cover stories abroad. 2 of the 3 nominated entries were made possible through One World Media bursaries. Let's take a look at the nominees.
Kerama Has No Walls.
خرجت من خارج السوق شعرت ان انا بموت. تفاجأنا فيه إنه أول ما اكتسر الجدار وجود أمن مركزي وقوات صاعقة ما نضد منه.
Almost famous. Chana's way.
¿Tenéis flaco o no tenéis flaco?
No tenemos.
¿Y queréis tener?
No.
¿Y más adelante?
No. Más viejitas tampoco.
No sé si creeros, ¿eh?
Es que nosotros queremos ser solteras nomás.
¿Sí?
Sí.
¿Y por qué queréis ser solteras?
Porque aburren los varones.
¿Por qué qué?
Porque aburren los varones.
¿Aburren?
Sí.
Well, stunning. I mean, amazing diversity. And, you know, what an extra truisms that cross boundaries. Boys are boring, aren't they? I mean, it's stunning. Absolutely wonderful. And three brilliant films there. The jury was impressed by the quality of entrance for this year's Student Award. So I think we're all of us. They said that the standard of cinematography and directorial prowess reached heights which belie the relative inexperience of students. It left no doubt in their minds that many of them have a long and successful career ahead of them. To present this award, please welcome the chair of the Student Award jury, director and producer, Jamie Doran.
I was lucky enough, as John pointed out, to be on the jury, and I think I can say on behalf of my fellow members, jury members, that the standard was quite extraordinary, as you can see from the clips there. Unfortunately, there could only be one winner. It was our unanimous choice, and I'm praying it's the name in this envelope. Almost famous.
Well, it's my great honor to be here to represent the filmmaker Vincent Du, our director of this film, who is actually at the moment working on another documentary in China relating to the latest earthquake. Well, it's a fantastic film, and the filmmaker wants to express his thanks and gratefulness to this organization, and also would like the audience to see the new kind of relationship between parents and children and the rising individuals in contemporary China. Thank you.
I'm Tony Diamond. I was Vincent's tutor, my privilege to be his tutor. I just know that he'd also want to thank One World for the student bursary, which enabled him to go to China to make the film, and particularly to Derek Thorne, who supported the project through some quite difficult times. So thanks, Derek.
Well, I'd just like to add that I think what Dr. Yu just said there was particularly interesting about how it demonstrated the individualism. I mean, that child was a precocious child in any society, completely interchangeable with anybody from France, Croatia, United States, wherever you might want to mention it. And that in itself is an extraordinary eye-opener. A very nice piece of work, beautifully studied. And it came out of a British university institution. No bad thing. Fantastic. But just think, 25 years ago, nobody had those opportunities. Nobody. And now we're talking in hundreds of students going through that. Our second category this evening is the Entertainment Award. This award recognises broadcast and print media that offers fresh, creative approaches, attracting new audiences to developing world issues. Here is an extract from each of the nominees.
Escape from the world's most dangerous place.
Life in the camp couldn't be further away from the glamour of the catwalk. But Samira is finally starting to understand exactly what it's like to be a refugee.
It's a huge thing for these people to actually be somewhere safe, first and foremost. These people here are either running because they're scared or running because they're starving. And it's like that black and white.
Go back to where you came from.
This is a war where the enemy wears civilian clothes, where bombs are strapped to bodies. This is the Afghanistan Hamid fled from.
You guys want to put yourself in refugees' shoes, right? Okay, I gave you just an example. I was sitting in my friend's house and I heard a very big explosion. I ran out of the building to see what's going on. I saw a massive cloud of dust outside. 3 children, they didn't know that's ID. One of the children hit with rock and the ID went off. I could see the pieces of meat falling down on the ground. Imagine like you don't allow your kids to walk in your backyard because of IDs.
Yeah.
How hard would be life in there?
Ethnic Hazaras, like Hamid, bear the brunt of the violence. And it's ethnic Hazaras that most commonly seek asylum in Australia.
The Bengali Detective.
আপনারা কি পুরো টিম অফ ডিটেকটিভস তাই তো আচ্ছা 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 ইন্সপিরেশনটা কি নাচের সঙ্গে ডিটেকটিভের
জাস্ট এনজয় ফ্রি মাইন্ড
আচ্ছা আচ্ছা আচ্ছা
ফ্রেশ মাইন্ড
আচ্ছা কত নম্বর ক্লাস
Well, the judges commended the 3 nominees for each having a strong and lasting impact. They reached mass audiences in ways that drew viewers into challenging subjects when they might otherwise switch off. Lucy Baxter, Managing Director of Mandrake Films and Chair of the jury, will present this award.
Hi everyone. This was a very inspiring and a very diverse award to judge. It's always a real challenge to be innovative and engaging and really create new audiences for world issues, and I think that all of the nominees on the list really managed to do that incredibly well, so good luck to everyone. And the winner is, I can get this open, Escape from the World's Most Dangerous Place.
That's not only the third one really qualified, is it?
Thank you very much. My name's Rob Unsworth. I was the exec of this documentary, which was about Samira, who is a model. I'll hand over to her in a second. She and her family fled from Somalia when the civil war broke out when she was 3. And what we did for this film was a very simple premise. We took her back. And in so doing, we made a film for BBC 3, which explored refugee camps, the sort of chaos in the sort of war-ravaged Mogadishu, and looked at female genital mutilation. Now, you may think, why is that in an entertainment category? But obviously what we were doing was trying to bring those sort of subjects to an audience that may not have considered them before. Now, it's great that BBC 3 gives us the sort of freedom to do that, and we're very proud of the impact that the doc has had. We couldn't have done it, obviously, without these two people. Steph made the film, and Samira brought an incredible raw honesty to it. As somebody who's grown up in London, she was then seeing the horrors of Somalia through the eyes of the audience, and yet she was so connected to it that it was gripping, and her reactions to what she saw made the film as remarkable as it was. So we're very proud of it, and thank you very much indeed for the award.
I was on my gap year when I got approached by the BBC to go back home to Somalia, and I left when the war broke out, so I didn't know much about Somalia. All I knew was London, so to get back in touch with my roots I thought would be absolutely amazing, but then to go there and then to be nominated for an award by One World Media has been absolutely epic. So thank you to everyone that's watched it, and One World Media, and all the Somalis that the Somalis that are born in London. I've never seen home, and that said that I showed them their home. So thank you guys so much. Thanks.
Well, I suppose congratulations to BBC 3 too, because I mean that's what we need, is exposure of films like this, and that's a fantastic platform. So congratulations to them too. Next, we have the Digital Media Award, sponsored by Google. This award is given for websites and other digital technologies that use innovative techniques, creative content to encourage understanding of the developing world. Let's see who the nominees are.
Africa Check.
Africa Check is the continent's first dedicated fact-checking website promoting accuracy in public debate. Backed by figures such as Kofi Annan and Desmond Tutu, the site tests claims made by public figures around the continent using traditional journalistic skills and evidence drawn from the latest online tools, public sources and experts, sorting out fact from fiction. Africa Check has published reports on topics from income inequality to childhood vaccination to the impact of gun control legislation. The site also provides fact-checking resources for professional and citizen journalists.
Icen Profundo.
This interactive multimedia production combines 30 short films with 360-degree panoramic photographs, text and music to present the traditional ways of life of the people of the Icen region of Chilean Patagonia. Through a variety of digital media technologies, including an online forum for audiences, Icen Profundo reveals the region's intangible cultural heritage, the innovative work with wood, wool and clay, and the preparation of traditional foods. It introduces viewers to those people that make Patagonia synonymous with struggle, affection and humility.
Jongo Love.
Jongo Love is an immersive multi-platform production, a modern narrative set in the slums of Nairobi. Told using strong storytelling that resonates with Kenyan youth, the drama conveys important sexual health messages through multiple channels, an audio drama on 10 radio stations across the country, a Facebook campaign with photos and videos, online live chats with the characters, an interactive Twitter feed, and a YouTube channel with videos relating to the story. Jongo Love entertains but also passes on information to inspire people to think about the decisions they make around relationships, sex and their future.
Judges said that the nominees stood out from a diverse array of digital entries displaying a range of techniques and engaging immersive content. To present the award, please welcome John Steinberg, External Relations Manager for Europe, Middle East and Africa at Google.
We at Google are proud to be supporting digital media efforts around the world, and particularly to be supporting the One World Media Awards. We're really impressed this year by the range of techniques to tell a broad range of stories about the developing world. And we're really impressed with all the nominees. And with that, I'm pleased to announce the winner, which is Jongo Love.
Thank you very much. I'm really honoured and a bit surprised here. I'm as you can tell, not from Kenya. I'm representing Well Told Story. The team are out in Nairobi at the moment. And so I know that Rob, Emma, Bridget and the team would be wanting to say thank you very much. I think really what I'd want to say, I'm a non-exec of, Well Told Story, so I've worked with them for a long time. And the thing that I think is most remarkable is the fact that they have there a team of young Kenyans, artists, writers, producers, who at one level don't care. They just want to innovate, to communicate, right? So there are no rules. Everything is up for trial, for experimentation. And in this program here on Jongo Love, they're taking on the toughest audience, right? Young people on the toughest issue, which is sexual health. And it's been really exciting journey watching them. And I'm really thrilled for them that they've got the kind of recognition, because I know what matters most to them is that they want to get an impact to actually affect the audience that they've worked with. But what this award does that I think will really mean a lot to them is it places them firmly in the international community, which is where I think they should be. Thank you very much.
Well, I haven't done it, but somebody will have tweeted Jongo Love that they've won, and instantly they know. And 25 years ago, that even making a telephone call to that part of Nairobi, actually any part of Nairobi, was not the easiest thing in the world. And again, that sort of illustrates how very fast things are moving. So now we're going to move on to the television category, sponsored by the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. This award is given for an outstanding program, either standalone or from a series which deals with current affairs and issues in the developing world. Let's have a look at the nominees.
Unreported World, Sex, Mobs and Revolution.
As we drank our tea, I realised a woman was being assaulted by a group of teenagers.
Just like you saw now, this is the kind of... What are they saying? Well, they're catcalling.
I was beginning to look at Cairo's streets with new eyes. Minutes later, while we were still sitting at the cafe, I saw two frightened girls being chased by another group of teenage boys.
Follow them quick. It's a pack of guys.
I think it's harassment.
It's harassment.
Yeah. Boys ran away after her.
They're running after her.
How many groups of boys have we seen? We've seen three big groups of boys, and you can see nobody even has batted an eyelid. Nobody's done anything.
Unreported World, the Master Chef of Mogadishu.
There's no gunfire in Mogadishu today, and Ahmed Jammer is cooking for a restaurant packed with Somalis returning home from exile.
When I see my customer happy, I feel the street of Mogadishu is safe. When I see my customer smiling, I feel like I'm smiling too.
Ahmed fled Somalia when he was a boy and settled in Britain. He trained as a chef and has a successful restaurant in London. Now he's left his wife and 3 children behind to do his bit for his birthplace.
Our World, the marriage breakers of Bangladesh.
After 6 hours driving, in a village near the town of Nator, we find Jemmy. Would you tell her that we hear she's getting married?
তোমার নাম কি জেমি? আচ্ছা, তোমার কি বিয়ে ঠিক হয়েছে নাকি আগামী সপ্তাহে? Yes, she is.
So you're getting married next week?
তোমার কি আগামী সপ্তাহে বিয়ে হচ্ছে? Yes.
Are you excited about that?
তুমি কি খুশি খুব? Not very much.
So Jemmy's here alone. Her parents are working out in the field. She's told us that she doesn't actually know her age, but she's in 8th grade, so she's either 12 or 13 years old. And her parents have told her she's got to marry her cousin in 5 days' time. When I asked her whether she was looking forward to the wedding, she said, not really.
Well, the judges thought this year's entries were incredibly strong, great range of stories, innovative ways of telling them. They felt that there was a genuine attempt to convey authentic stories and bring out the voices of individuals. To present the award, please welcome Director of Communications at the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, Jonathan Charles.
John, thank you very much indeed. Well, I was lucky enough to spend almost 3 decades of my working life covering foreign news as a BBC foreign correspondent and presenter, and I truly value the part that it plays in democracy. And now I'm at the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, an organisation set up to foster democracy after the fall of the Berlin Wall, to help all the communist regimes change, and now to help the countries of the Arab Spring change. And we invest about 9 billion euros a year in a vast swathe of land, all the way from Mongolia on the Chinese border, through Russia, Central and Eastern Europe, down through Turkey, the Mediterranean countries, to Morocco on the Atlantic. A huge area, an area that is changing because we invest in changing lives, and an area where we believe journalism plays an important role. We know that democracy, thriving democracy, building democracy requires good journalism. And that's why we're very happy to be sponsoring the Television Award this evening. And now the moment of truth for these wonderful bits of filmmaking that we were lucky enough to see just now. The winner is, of the television category, Unreported World, the Master Chef of Mogadishu.
I'm the series editor of Unreported World, and what an honour to be nominated for 2. How brilliant. And sorry, our other film didn't win because it was great too, I have to say. I'm here with Youssef, who's Ahmed's nephew, and he's helping run the shop, the massively successful restaurant while Ahmed's busy in Mogadishu. And I'd like to say thank you very much to One World and to Siobhan at Channel 4 for making this film possible, because it was quite an undertaking. Ahmed lives this every day, but to send a team out there was not an easy thing. So I'm saying thanks on behalf of Aidan Hartley, who can't be here, and John Conroy, the director. They did a really fantastic job. We're very proud of this film, so thank you very much. Yusuf, would you like to say something?
My name is Yusuf. I'd just like to say sorry about him not being able to be here and everything. Sorry, just a bit. Basically, he's taken me in this country when I came here and everything, and there's a lot of people in Somalia that have done something like this, basically. So what it is I'd like to say thank you, and hopefully peace will be everywhere. So thank you very much.
And great that we have sponsors like the EBRD and Google and all the other sponsors tonight, because we couldn't do this without the sponsors. It's time now for the Radio Award for an outstanding feature series of reports or single program that covers issues from the wider world. Let's hear a clip from each entry.
Assignment: Crossing Continents, Uzbekistan. This BBC investigation, recorded mostly on a mobile phone to keep a low profile, looked at reports of women being sterilised in Uzbekistan without their consent.
I sit down with two women. They're friends. One is very young, with a round, pretty face and a shy smile. She's 24 and holding a baby girl.
I always dreamt of having 2 boys and 2 girls, but now I never will. After my second baby, I was ready to have another, but I couldn't get pregnant. I went to have an ultrasound and the doctor said, "You've had your tubes tied. You've been sterilised." They didn't ask me, they just sterilised me. I asked why. They said that's the law in Uzbekistan.
Assignment: India's lost girls. With access not only to the victims of trafficking but also the traffickers themselves, this documentary exposed how girls are being bought and sold in India.
So how many girls a year does you traffic?
I traffic 150 to 200 girls a year.
Tell me, how does it happen? How do you get the girl?
I persuade the parents. I tell them we will give the girls good jobs in Calcutta or Delhi. That can change their lives. Once they are convinced, we get them to Calcutta and traffic them. At the beginning, we tell the parents we are taking them to work as domestic help, and once they get to the bigger cities, they get into all sorts of things.
The Age of Reason, Part 6. Dr. Nawal El-Sadawi. The Egyptian feminist writer and medical doctor Nawal El-Sadawi has a unique perspective on the lives of women around the world. In this BBC World Service programme, she told her story.
While I was working in the ministry and in the villages and seeing what's happening to women, and the sexual life of women and men is a misery. So I wrote the book, Woman and Sex. There is a distorted concept of honor in our society. A man's honor is safe as long as the female members of his family keep their hymens intact. He can be a womanizer of the worst caliber and yet be considered an honorable man as long as his women folk are able to protect their genital organs.
The judges were really impressed by the quality of investigative journalism featured by the nominees this year and the originality of their stories. And here to present the award is radio and television presenter Anita Anand.
It's a long way away, and I'm the radio equivalent of shortwave, so it took a while to get here. I do work on radio and television, and it's very interesting hearing John talk about the way in which technology has changed so much over 25 years. One thing, though, really hasn't changed very much, and it's the intimacy of radio. It's made by one person with a small piece of kit talking to another person and then that's transmitted into the ears of you at home, in your car, in your kitchen, wherever you may be, hidden in a bunker, hiding from authorities. And that's why it is one form of radio that terrifies autocratic societies. One of the first things that dictators do is they crack down on FM licenses. They don't grant them to anybody but their cronies. I just heard here, in fact, while we were having a drink, that Mugabe has made it an offence in the last 24 hours to own a shortwave radio. They fear it because it is powerful, and it is powerful because it is true, immediate, and honest. It is a very great pleasure, therefore, to announce the winner of this outstanding category. And it is Assignment Crossing Continents, Uzbekistan.
Thank you very much. Very honored. And I think, as Anita said, the Uzbek government really didn't want this story to get out and put quite a lot of challenges on the way. And I think the fact that we did manage to do it is down to the bravery of women who agreed to speak to us, and also down to one skill which I don't really have and had to practice, and that was patience. We had to spend a lot of time waiting, and Wesley had to put up with a lot of phone calls from me, panicking that it wasn't going to work out. And I think that goes back to the whole issue of this changing pace of media. And I think patience has become a luxury in journalism these days. And hopefully this documentary is an example how it can actually pay off. So, thanks very much.
Well, that was a wonderful report, what little I saw of it. But now, of course, we can catch up with it. We can download it as a podcast or simply go to the archive. It's an amazing change. And of course, the people who the Uzbek authorities don't want to hear it will hear it, because there are so many different mechanisms of getting to it. Now, the News Award is sponsored by Mercy Corps. This is for a single news report in print or broadcast media that has had great impact in increasing UK audiences' understanding of the developing world. Let's see the nominees.
Aleppo, Race to Save Rena.
On Aleppo streets, a truck races through traffic. We follow them because we've seen a man leap inside, carrying a limp little girl in his arms. But perhaps because our car is new, he now rushes towards us for help.
No, where are they taking it?
Rena is 4.
Quick, just show me in. Quick.
Go to the hospital, he says. Guys, she's choking.
What happened?
She was on the balcony at home when a bullet struck from nowhere, he explains. She's struggling to breathe.
Somali justice.
The men who sit on Somalia's death row are brought to this little tree. They are tied to the tree and shot dead.
dareenkiina suu yahay qofku waad arkaysaanba in hortiina lagu dilay
waxba uu arkay manager dareenkiin naf walba waxa galabstay un baan laga jirayaa Soomaa waxba uu arkay u jaxanjeemeen.
He shows me the bullet holes in the tree. They are shot dead by the family of the victim. It sounds like revenge killing, an eye for an eye. But here in Somalia, this is justice.
We live in fear of a massacre. Mary Colvin's powerful account of a district where 28,000 people were trapped described for the first time the scale of suffering in Syria.
They call it the widow's basement. Crammed amid makeshift beds and scattered belongings are frightened women and children trapped in the horror of Homs, the Syrian city shaken by 2 weeks of relentless bombardment. Among the 300 huddling in this wood factory cellar in the besieged district of Baba Amir is 20-year-old Noor, who lost her husband and her home to the shells and rockets. We had had nothing but sugar and water for 2 days, and my husband went to try and find food. It was the last time she saw him.
Well, the judges found this a very difficult decision. It was a great challenge to select these nominees with a rich and varied range of excellent entries this year. They felt that the quality was very high overall and that the submissions were very considered, combining powerful reporting with extraordinary stories. Sadly, one of the nominees, Marie Colvin, was killed just days after writing that article that you heard a clip from. She was a courageous foreign correspondent who believed passionately in the need to report on conflicts from the front line. A career that spanned 30 years, she covered stories from around the world for the Sunday Times. She was committed to reporting on the realities of war, especially its effects on civilians. That was exactly what she was doing in the city of Homs at the time of her death. She felt that her job was to bear witness, write about situations, write about people in a way that gave audiences a better understanding of world events. She once said, "These are people who have no voice. I feel I have a moral responsibility towards them, that it would be cowardly to ignore them." The judges wish to express that Marie's name will forever tragically be associated with journalism and Syria. She sought to report the tragedy of conflict with a humanity we should all aspire to. Please welcome Mervyn Lee, Executive Director of Mercy Corps, to reveal the winner of this year's News Award.
Thank you, John. At Mercy Corps, we are very proud to be here tonight as part of the One World Media event on the 25th anniversary. Particularly so as we appreciate the value of telling a story. We work in some of the world's toughest places, including Syria and Somalia, and we know that it's really important to tell people what the circumstances people find in their lives are, what it's like to live in conflict, in tension, in crisis. And we thoroughly appreciate the cooperation we have with the media and the brave journalists, and no one more braver than Maria, who sometimes have to give their lives in the cause. And tonight's nominees are all worthy of the award, and the award goes to Somali Justice.
Third Somali story tonight. Seems we are in love with Somalia. Being up against Marie Colvin, we weren't expecting to win this at all, to be honest. So I would like to thank the jury and the One World Media Awards for recognizing our story. And also I would like to thank Channel 4 News for for investing in us and trusting us to do such important stories from Somalia. In particular, my editor Ben and Naveen, the foreign editor, head of Foreign News, and Rob, and also Theresa May, who produced this film and worked very hard to spot all the interesting parts of our story, and Aggie who produced, and finally Ahmed the cameraman who was sweating. I was just sitting around drinking lots of tea. But he was the one who was running around and filming and everything. I'd like to thank everybody who was involved in this story, and also the local journalist, Nuh Musa, who helped us realize this film. I also would like to say this, the grave diggers, I found back home yesterday, and they had their busiest day about 10 days ago, where 13 alleged Islamist fighters were executed in one day. So they were very busy on that particular day. And as far as our main character, who we didn't see in the film, he's still in prison waiting execution. It's too complicated story to explain, but he's still there waiting, and we don't know what's going to happen, whether he will be executed or not. Once again, I'd like to thank everyone, and thank you very much.
As he is all the time in front of the camera doing all the talk, I think he did all the talking. Thank you all.
Well, I confess I feel a marginal conflict of interest coming on me, but in truth, it's worth mentioning that Jamal is somebody who has emerged yet again from one of these university courses. He was at Kingston, and I think without that start, we wouldn't have the star reporter that we have in our midst at Channel 4 News. He has produced some most extraordinary insights into real life in Somalia. Perhaps one of the most remarkable was to see Somali Olympic athletes training under fire in Mogadishu. He's a brave, mad character who has fathered 6 children, which I find also equally remarkable. Now, next up is the Press Award for an outstanding print article on the developing world during the past year. Well, they're all in one family. No, none of that. Let's listen to a clip from each of the nominees.
The day I saw 248 girls suffering genital mutilation. Abigail Howarth's eyewitness account gave the world a rare look into an annual mass female genital mutilation ceremony of girl children in Indonesia.
The room filled up with noise and people. Girls started to cry and protest as soon as their mothers hustled them inside. Rapidly, the mood turned businesslike. "We have many girls to circumcise this morning, about 300, Hijela shouted above the escalating din. As children were hoisted onto desks, I realised with a jolt, this is an assembly line.
Death metal. When Kate Hoddle travelled to Bangka Island near Sumatra to investigate tin mining, she exposed a devastating vicious circle. As the industry ruins the island's natural landscape, it also destroys tourism, leaving mining as the only source of work.
15 metres deep, they scavenge for tin, cutting into the sand with their hands and feet, just like Sugar used to do, until one day in August his pit collapsed, burying him alive and snapping his left shin in half. His cries of landslide were drowned by the mud that killed the 3 friends who had been working beside him. The word dilemma is the one most locals use to describe the situation in Bangka. Tin mining is a lucrative but destructive trade.
The world's deadliest road. Annie Kelly investigated the human cost of the £169 million World Bank upgrade of the N2 highway in Bangladesh, considered one of the most dangerous roads in the world.
Basically, this road is like driving a 10-ton truck through a pedestrian mall, Smith says, and nobody is doing enough to stop it. He points to the sides of the road. No crash barriers. In the middle of the road, there's no central reservation to prevent dangerous overtaking and stop the majority of the head-on collisions. No pedestrian footpaths, no footbridges, no traffic lights or speed controls. They built this road with absolutely no basic safety features, he says.
Well, 3 spectacular pieces. The jury said that the writers of these articles were all personally engaged in the topics they covered. They felt that this year's entries as a whole were solidly reported, covering important topics from women's rights to child health to conflict in Syria and around the world. To present the award, please welcome Peter Cunliffe-Jones, Deputy Director of the AFP Foundation and Chair of the jury.
Hello. Well, as John said, we found all of those entries very engaging for lots of reasons. They spoke to and allowed the voices of the people that they spoke to emerge in all the reporting. The photographs that went with them, I think you'd agree, having just seen them, were remarkable as well. So the winner is Death Metal.
I am not Kate, but I have, she couldn't be here, but I have a very excitable message from her in the event of her winning, which she has. So I'm just going to read that to you, and it starts, wow, what an incredible honour it is to be shortlisted for this award, let alone win it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. First to my Guardian editors for nominating me, and second to One World for recognising tin mining in Indonesia's Bangka Island is a story worth highlighting. This award must go to the thousands of miners who pore over Bangka's soil every day. It is through their hard work, for which they earn so little, that we have the alloys and conductors for our laptops, mobiles, and other electronics. Those miners are the one for whom I have to say thank you the most. Their bravery in sharing their story with me was tremendous, because in many cases it was not easy. But it does seem to have made a difference. I'm so proud to say that our investigation on the island, which was a joint exercise with Friends of the Earth, has led Samsung to investigate its tin sourcing in Bangka, and we can only hope that Apple will soon follow suit. Hopefully this will make tin mining more regulated and therefore safer, and help to stem the tide of environmental destruction that has racked this beautiful island. I'm sorry not to be with you in London tonight, but I would like to say thank you again. What a privilege it is to be shortlisted with Abby and Annie, whose phenomenal reporting is also deserving of the utmost accolades. I hope you have a great night tonight, and congratulations from Bangkok to all the nominees and winners. Thank you on her behalf.
It's a PS that I probably don't even need to mention, but of course all 3 finalists were women. And one other point which I think is also worth stressing is how, as the technology evolves in able to get sort of high quality pictures in a manner and in a speed that we've never been able to do before, colour magazines themselves are visiting stories that previously would never have made it between their covers. And I'm thinking particularly of the FT, Guardian, Observer, Telegraph. All of them are on this territory, and that's very exciting. Next, the first ever New Voice Award, a new category created this year to mark the 25th annual ceremony. This award recognises the young journalist, 30 years of age or under, who has made the most outstanding contribution to international journalism during the year. Here's a clip from each nominee's work.
Jessica Hatcher. In her 18 months as a reporter, 30-year-old Jessica Hatcher has filed highly engaging stories from East, Central and West Africa for a variety of publications. In Guinea-Bissau, an oft-forgotten West African nation and transit point for Latin American cocaine, she investigated the effect of drugs on the population.
7 years ago, almost no one in Guinea-Bissau could imagine that just 1 gram of a bland-looking white powder could be worth more than their average monthly salary. Today, the US estimates 30 tons of cocaine passes through this African country every year en route across the Atlantic. In one of the poorest countries in the world and one of the smallest, with a population of just 1.6 million, the drug now permeates the entire nation, from the military and political elites who facilitate its passage to the poorest and most vulnerable, who are developing a rising addiction.
Oliver Engelhardt. Oliver Engelhardt is a 30-year-old freelance producer and director with a passion for character-driven observational documentaries. He's produced films for Al Jazeera English in Afghanistan, Pakistan and Russia. His recent work took him to the front lines of the Russian opposition movement in Moscow.
Сейчас мы празднуем день рождения нашего любимого президента. Ему исполняется 60 лет. Это отличное время для того, чтобы проводить его на пенсию. И в качестве подарка хочу подарить ему грабли, чтобы в колонии поселения ему было что делать.
Удачи.
Ну, хочу подарить Владимиру Владимировичу Путину. Здравствуйте.
Здравствуйте.
Здравствуйте. А почему вы отбираете мне вещь мою?
А почему вы проходите место?
А что, в чем проблема? А что, я не имею права на улице стоять? Вы куда меня тащите? Граждане, предъявите документы ваши. А в чем проблема? Меня задерживаете? Ну, закон-то будем соблюдать или нет? Уважаемый. Ну, что ж происходит такое? Ну, мне что, осторожно. За что меня задерживаете? Уважаемые граждане, соблюдайте закон. Уважаемые граждане, сотрудники полиции, предъявите ваши документы. На каком основании? Что такое происходит, товарищ? Я хотел президента поздравить с днем рождения.
Tahir Qadri. 27-year-old Tahir Qadri strives to show a different side of his native Afghanistan. He seeks out voices rarely heard and brings new perspectives of his country to audiences, showing the full diversity of Afghan people.
When I was elected as a Member of Parliament, when my friends and constituents came to see me in my house, their first thought was pity. After praising our lifestyle and saying we were a good couple, they would call me a successful woman, but would say, "You have good children, but unfortunately you don't have a son."
It was a remarkable and radical decision, but the Rafats decided that they would disguise their youngest daughter Mehernoush as a boy, and so 3-year-old Mehernoush became Mehran and was dressed in boys' clothes, given a short haircut, and was allowed to play with other boys.
The jury commended these up-and-coming journalists whose work was incredibly engaging and presented a range of unique voices. They were impressed by their courage to report stories from difficult-to-reach places, taking risks and rakes, and being bold in their reporting. To present this award, please welcome on stage multi-award-winning investigative journalist Soria Samora.
Thank you, John. I truly feel honored to be asked on this special night to present this very new award, especially to young voices who are pushing, taking all the risks to be able to give voice to voiceless people. In Liberia today, you do have a lot of young journalists who what they do, they wake up in the morning, they look at, about 4 or 5 in the morning, they wake up and they look at the international news and they download it, and then they go around, they get their own news, and they write it all on blackboards and take the blackboards and stick them in strategic areas so that people read the news for the day. As we're talking, it's happening today. I don't know where that is going to fit into the evolving media, John. But I feel truly honored to present this award to this young voices that are trying to give voice to voiceless people. So the award goes to Tahir Qadri.
Director of Programmes at Persian Television, and I have the pleasure of being on the receiving end of many of Tahir's ideas, which are well, extraordinary in their diversity and their insight into Afghanistan. He's always showing us a new way to look at that country. He always comes with the idea, but then also he has access, and if he doesn't have access at first, he goes back until he has access, and that kind of story you just saw there with the family, that's the kind of intimate story that he's able to tell. And then he has impact, because those stories go out. He makes sure they get out on the social media, so they show on BBC Persian Television, big audience, but the social networking in Afghanistan, which is now taking off, and forums are set up to discuss these ideas. He has tremendous impact. The story there about girls being brought up as boys, it's not new in Afghanistan, but it's new to talk about it in that way, and that's what Tahir is doing for our channel and for the BBC.
Well, I'm actually speechless because I'm not good at delivering speeches, but I'm so much thankful to One World Media Awards for giving this to me. Actually, I'm so much privileged to be working for the BBC, and so that it has paved a platform for me, you know, to be the voice of my people, actually, to look beyond the war and you know, other things that Afghanistan is associated with. So I'm really thankful to 3 ladies who have accompanied me here. Without them, I wouldn't be here. So 2 of them are there. And I'm so much privileged that my family in Afghanistan, you can't believe it, it's very late night, but they are watching me live. And so that's great, and I'm so much happy that I got it. So, and also, I mean, well, I don't know what to say, but coming from a country that you all, you know, which makes the headline of the TVs and press in the West, so I always try to show, you know, a different side of Afghanistan, something which is quite different because of the access I have, the culture I know, and the people I know, and I would love to be carrying on my job like that. And thank you so much again.
Well, good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Qadri. I hope you can hear us there in Afghanistan. I know what you're experiencing. Sometimes, yes, the picture stops for a long time and then we pick up again, but it's worth it. Stay with us. That was your boy. Well done. Next up is the Documentary Award given for the highest standard of documentary that deals with some aspect of the developing world. Let's see a clip from each nominated piece.
5 broken cameras.
الشغل على السياج الفاصل مستمر بدون تأخير. لازم نضل متماسكين. الناس بتيجي تنضم إلنا من جميع أنحاء العالم، بيجوا مع أفكار مبدعة وأشكال جديدة للاحتجاج، بيقفوا معنا في كل شيء بصير. في هذا اليوم انكسرت كاميرتي الأولى بقنبلة غاز.
Storyville, the Albino Witchcraft Murders.
Kama leo jamii ilikuwa inaniona kwamba mimi si binadamu, na huzunika, natafuta solution. Nawezaje kubadilisha jamii fikiri huyu ni baraka? Na kuna watu ambao wameuawa hawana hatia. Rafiki yangu akakatwa ni kama sina viazi vina nafuu. Weka huku. Ni watu tu imejitokeza. Watu wachache wamedanganywa kwamba kwenye ngozi yangu humu kuna nini jamani? Kuna mali. Vidole vyangu hivi ukivipata kesho asubuhi wewe ukiamka basi zinazungumza mfukoni. Unaneno wewe dole tofauti yangu iko wapi?
Solar Mamas.
هذا اللي احنا سنركز عليه. So 3 parts of solar system,
solar module, battery, and electronics. So all 6 months you have learned and doing together.
مش بتكتبي لحالك تراعي على اللوحة وتكتبي هناك تتعلم بدنا أنا بتعلم والله متذكر طبعا كثير هذا اللي بحدث منها بس تراعي.
So sun is coming and electricity is generated. Store in this battery. This is the blank PCB and all components mount here and soldering here all you by hand.
Well, the jury felt there was a powerful fighting spirit on the shortlist, with many of the films doing extremely impressive work to challenge injustice in the developing world. They said that the nominees achieved this with style, humour and intimacy by filming over very long periods and in threatening situations, and by forming strong relationships with the people that they filmed. In this way, deeply personal, touching stories were heard above the noise of politics. Here to present the awards is Ron McCulloch, Chair of the Jury and Managing Editor of Arts at Insight News Television.
Thanks, John. And happy birthday, One World. 25 years of great work. Independents like ourselves have gained greatly from your support, from the notoriety you've given us sometimes, and the attention. It's been very important, so thank you for that. But they gave us the birthday present this year. They gave us a pile of DVDs, and they changed my life, certainly over the period of 4 weeks. I watched them. I know the rest of the jury as well. Had many occasions where they were in very different places. And where we were taken was extraordinary, even for those of us who work in this industry. And it was about the commitment, it was about the real business of giving us the chance to empathise properly with other people, making the story interesting. And that's exactly what they did, and brilliantly. And the winner is Storyville, the Albino Witchcraft Murders.
Wow, what a shock, and what an honour, particularly being next to two such wonderful films as Five Broken Cameras and Solar Mama. I'm really surprised. Firstly, I just want to thank Nick Fraser and Kate Townsend and all of Storyville for putting faith in me. It's my first film. I made it over 6 years. It was an incredibly long journey. Before I started this film in 2006, I had no idea what was about to happen over the next 5 years, and it would lead to the murder of 73 people with albinism in Tanzania and a further 35 people left mutilated. And it became an incredibly important story to follow. And the two inspirational men in the film have had a huge impact on my life, and really this is for them. And also I just want to thank Ollie Huddleston, the editor, who did a fantastic job, and Joanna, my co-producer, and my fiancée, who is here, who I love very much, and without her support, it really wouldn't have been possible. So thank you all so much.
Well, I particularly love the clip that was showed that has always seemed to me, when I first saw it, I said it's something out of Shakespeare. It's so dramatic, it's so extraordinary, and it makes you upset, very upset, and identify very much with Josephat. So I want to thank Harry. Also, Kate, who works with me, who worked on the film. And I suppose I'm allowed to say that this film has been on Storyville, but the other two films also are Storyvilles. And I hope you'll stick with Storyville, because we try to show as many films as we can of this highly involving kind, wherever they come from in the world, in the developing world, in the developed world, everywhere. Thanks.
No 25th anniversary would be complete without recognising Nick Fraser's absolutely amazing, towering contribution to factual television. My personal frustration is not to have worked for him or with him for far too many years, but there it is, you can't all work for the BBC.
Can I tell a story about you?
No, you can't. But I would just like to, please, just to pay real tribute to a fantastic force in television.
Thank you very much.
Now for the penultimate award of the evening, the International Journalist of the Year Award, sponsored by Concern Worldwide UK. This is for an established journalist who has made the most outstanding contribution to international journalism throughout the year. Let's have a look at examples of their work.
Sue Lloyd-Roberts, Butts. Sue Lloyd-Roberts' journalistic career has focused on giving a voice to the voiceless around the world. Last year, she investigated female genital mutilation in Egypt, interviewing both perpetrators and victims to powerful effect.
It's a village where Muslims live side by side with Christians, and both communities practice FGM.
I've had problems in my sexual relationship with my husband because of it. And so when Naveen explained about the health complications and how it's not part of religious faith, I was convinced. I now don't want my daughter circumcised.
But the Muslim mother next door is not. The two older girl cousins have been mutilated, and her 11-year-old daughter will be next.
Ian Pennell. In a foreign news environment dominated this year by coverage of Syria, Ian Pennell's reporting from the country was vivid and immersive, conveying all too clearly the horrors of the fighting.
Ducking behind a wall for cover, a fighter shouts to move, pointing to snipers behind us.
Okay.
Well, the rebels have now moved up because the government's been trying to push into this area. It's a very confused situation. We know there are snipers all around here because it's an urban area. The sounds ring out, and what you can't tell is which direction they're actually coming from. As you can see, the rebels are incredibly tense.
Stuart Ramsey. Stuart Ramsey produced powerful reports from around the Middle East, adding a layer of context to breaking news stories. In Yemen, he shone a light on the slow burn famine that has resulted from regional insecurity, examining the impact on the civilian population.
Squalid camps now home to hundreds of thousands fleeing fighting in the north and south of the country. Over 10 million people, nearly half the population, is going hungry. Food prices doubled in a year. There's no end in sight.
The insecurity caused by fighting in various parts of Yemen is one of the reasons why malnutrition is such a big problem. The United Nations estimates that 300,000 children under the age of 5 are in grave risk of dying from malnutrition and related illnesses. Indeed, they say that whatever they do this year, tens of thousands will die for certain.
The jury thought that this year's nominees entered some outstanding reports on complex topics rarely covered in such a considered way. The work of each of these three was of an exceptionally high standard, making it very difficult to select a winner. To present the award, please welcome Rose Caldwell, UK Executive Director, Concern Worldwide.
Concern Worldwide works in 24 of the world's poorest and most vulnerable countries. We work to alleviate poverty and to improve the lives of some of the world's most vulnerable people. But at the heart of this, we believe that we must address the issue of hunger. And we do this in two ways, through our programming work, where we reached about 23 million people in 2012. We also recognise the need to influence policymakers and decision makers. And this is why in 2013 we have joined forces with about 200 other civil society organisations in the Enough Food for Everyone campaign, because it is one of the world's most solvable problems. This is about our 7th year of supporting the One World Media Awards, recognising the huge role that the media play in raising issues. And we would urge the media in 2013 to help us draw attention to the 870 million people who go hungry, whilst the world's most powerful people meet in Northern Ireland in the next month. The winner of the award is Sue Lloyd-Roberts.
Thank you very much. I've been reporting on the developing world and human rights, I think, for over 20 years, and there are a lot of media award ceremonies that take place in the UK every day, but for anyone who, like myself, has specialized in this area, this is the most special and the most important. Thank you. I think I'm almost as old as you, John. I too remember cans of film.
Give yourself an injustice.
I'd like to take a special thank you to Tony Jolliffe, who was the cameraman and edited the films which were submitted for this award. And I want to tell a small anecdote that those of you who are in the field will warm to. Tony and I were in the Nile filming the film on female genital mutilation in Egypt that you saw the clip of. And that inevitable call came from the news desk that there had been a football riot in Alexandria in northern Egypt. And would we abandon female genital mutilation, which really wasn't a terribly important story anyway. It was always the second most important story we'd gone to do, because they wanted us to go up north to make a report on the football riots. I'm sure many of you share my experience that news editors never have a map in front of them. I think the distance from where we were on the Nile was a good 8 hours drive to Alexandria. It would have been quicker to send someone from London. With that beside. Anyhow, my male cameraman, who had got stuck into filming female genital mutilation, we just filmed one of the perpetrators, said, "I'm not going." He said that if boys routinely had their sensitive bits lopped off them between the ages of 4 and 14, there would be no other story in this part of the world. And female genital mutilation was the only story we were prepared to cover that day. So we stuck with it. There have been other references to this tragedy this evening, to female genital mutilation. So I hope there will be many more reports until it is totally obliterated. But meanwhile, thank you very much for this. I'm so proud. Thank you.
Well, now we come to the final category of the evening, the special award sponsored by CNN International, The award is given to an independent media organization based in the developing world whose outstanding content has made a real impact on people's lives. The award demonstrates the positive value of media to society. With a high number of outstanding entries coming from around the world this year, the competition was incredibly close. The judges finally decided on the 3 most exceptional nominees, all fine examples of how important media is in helping people tackle problems of development and governance, human rights, and cultural expression. The 3 nominees are, in no particular order, the Zimbabwean newspaper Objective TV, based in Azerbaijan, and NISAA-FM from Palestine. I'll tell you a bit more about each of them now. The Zimbabwean is made up of a group of committed Zimbabwean journalists from around the world who come together to start the first newspaper for Zimbabweans in exile. They produce and distribute a publication dedicated to freedom of expression and access to information. Objective TV provides alternative human rights news from Azerbaijan to counter the increasing government control of traditional news sources, an independent online news service, and it raises awareness amongst local audiences of their rights, supports a culture of transparency and of pluralism. NISAA-FM is a non-political radio station in Ramallah, whose mission is to entertain, inform, inspire, empower. Palestinian women, in particular, are the people that they're most interested in doing this with and for. They enhance the general image of women and focus on all aspects of life in Palestine, with programming that views women as positive contributors to the development of society. So, here to present the 2013 One World Media Special Award on behalf of CNN International is Deborah Rayner, Managing Editor and Vice President for Europe, Middle East and Africa.
Well, it's been a wonderful evening, so I'm not going to torture you with a long speech. I just want to say that CNN is very honoured to be sponsoring this special award. We're a truly international channel, and for us, every part of the globe has many stories to tell. So we're delighted to be associated with One World Media, the nominees, winners, and distinguished journalists here tonight. We applaud the special award because of its commitment to recognising media excellence in the developing world. And so I hope that you'll join me very shortly in applauding the special award winner. Hold your applause, though. They've flown in. We're going to have to see the film before you welcome them rapturously to the stage. The winner is Objective TV. Still applauding. And before the CEO,
in May 2010.
from Baku comes up onto the stage, we'll just have a look at a short film to tell us what they do.
Formed in May 2010, Objective TV is a non-profit, independent online news source dedicated to providing alternative human rights news from Azerbaijan to counter the increasing government control of traditional news sources.
We have the highest ranking and popularity among all local online television channels. We report on human rights abuses.
Objective TV focuses on issues generally ignored, underreported, or reported with bias by the mainstream media, such as freedom of expression, gender equality, transparency, and civil rights.
We film and broadcast exclusive no-comment videos that are not shown by traditional media. We face pressure from police while filming demonstrations. We are attacked, pushed, and hit. But we continue to do our job despite all the odds.
Objective TV aims to raise awareness among local audiences of their rights. By reporting violations of those rights, it supports a culture of transparency and pluralism and provides a professional platform for opposition politicians, civil society leaders, journalists and ordinary citizen groups who are otherwise sidelined by Azerbaijan's state-controlled mainstream media.
So please welcome the chairman of Objective TV, who's travelled all the way from Baku to be with us tonight.
Hi everyone, I'm Emin, I'm from Baku. It's a very big honor to me and to our team for we win this award. And I want to tell very briefly I want to dedicate this award to my all imprisoned and murdered colleagues in Azerbaijan. Right now we have 7 journalists in the prison, 2 human rights defenders, and for the last 8 years we have 3 murdered journalists. We have very big level from impunity and we believe from these awards very helpful to us, and we believe we continue our job for development of our country. Internet gives to us big future, and we use YouTube to promote our videos. We use Facebook, Twitter, and all other social network tools. But right now, government won't start realize new censorship in Azerbaijan internet. Right now we have partly free internet, but we worried for maybe 1 or 2 months before presidential election, which we have 5 months after. Government start big pressure against internet. And we're very happy for this first award from Objective TV. And we hope this not lasts. Thank you for all.
I mean, it's a great honor for us and humbling that you have come all this way and to listen to the threats under which your journalists are having to live. I mean, what danger is there to Objective TV? Is there a danger it will be shut down or that you will have difficulties even returning home?
I think we have sometimes emergency signal by the government, sometimes Minister of Justice or another fiscal state structure send inspection to our organization, but we continue. If government have only one choice, close our organization. But right now, internet is free, and every time we have chance to upload our materials, not in Azerbaijan, in different countries, and we believe we win in this battle.
Good luck. Thank you very much. And thank you very warmly to CNN for sponsoring that final award. And it brings us to the end of this very special 25th edition of the One World Media Awards. You know, it's invidious to suggest it, but, you know, I really do feel this year's been really the best, partly because if you just track from the students at the beginning to the end, each category was chasing the other in excellence. And to be honest, the films made by every category, the radio made, the print, could all hold their own against each other throughout the whole evening. It was an evening of genuine excellence, an evening in which the challenges had been more than fully met. I'd like to congratulate all the winners and nominees. There is the refreshing fact that the bar is open for a while longer. Please stay to celebrate all tonight's winners and the great media that we've seen tonight. And please thank Kishon Khan's fantastic band, Loki Terra, who are going to play us out. Thank you very much indeed. See you next year.
Thank you.